After 48 years of being just a housewife, my husband and daughter put me in a nursing home. But what they didn't know about me changed everything. I'm Dorothy. I'm 70 years old. 6 months ago, my husband Harold and my daughter Susan decided I needed to live somewhere else. Not because I was sick, not because I couldn't take care of myself, but because they decided I was becoming a burden. Harold said I was forgetting things. Keys, appointments, small things that happen to everyone at 70. But to him, it meant I was losing my mind, that I couldn't be trusted alone, that I needed professional care. Susan agreed with him. She always agrees with him. My daughter looked at me and saw what her father saw. Nothing, just an old woman who'd never done anything important, never worked, never contributed, just existed. They moved me to Heritage Gardens Senior Living in November. Told me it was for my own good, that I'd be happier there, that I'd make friends, that Harold deserved his retirement without worrying about me. I believed them. After 48 years of being told what I was and wasn't capable of, I believed them. Before I tell you how I got here, I need to know you're listening. Drop your city or country in the comments, and please subscribe for real stories about real women. For 48 years, I was Harold's wife, Susan's mother, the woman who made dinner and kept the house clean and smiled at his business parties. I gave up everything to be that person, and somehow, I became invisible doing it. But here's what Harold and Susan didn't know, what nobody knew, that just a housewife they put away had secrets, had power, had a past they'd forgotten about. Stay with me, because what happened after they put me in that place, nobody saw it coming, least of all them. Asterisk, I met Harold in the spring of 1978 at the University of Washington in Seattle. I was 22 years old. He was 20. I'd just defended my PhD dissertation in art history. He was getting his MBA. We met at a campus coffee shop near the Burke Museum. I was there grading papers. He was there studying for an exam. When I dropped my pen, he picked it up, smiled, asked what I was working on. Dissertation revisions, Renaissance art, specifically the influence of Medici patronage on Florentine painters. That sounds impressive and complicated. It is, but fascinating. I'm publishing it as a book next year. He looked impressed, asked me to dinner. I said yes. Our first date was at Canlis, an upscale restaurant overlooking Lake Union. Harold ordered wine, talked about his plans. He wanted to work in corporate finance, make serious money, build a successful career. What about you? He asked. What are your plans after you finish your PhD? I have a job offer. Assistant professor at Reed College in Portland. Starting fall 1978, I'll be teaching Renaissance art history and continuing my research, publishing more books hopefully. That's great. Really impressive. But something in his tone felt off. Not quite genuine, like impressive was code for something else, something less positive. That we dated through the spring and summer of 1978. Harold graduated with his MBA in June, got a job at a financial firm in downtown Seattle, started making good money right away, moved into a nice apartment in Capitol Hill. I was preparing to move to Portland, excited about my teaching position, about starting my career, about being Dr. Dorothy Chen, professor and scholar. Then Harold proposed in August at Gasworks Park, sunset over the water, down on one knee, ring in a box. Dorothy, I love you. Marry me, build a life with me here in Seattle. But my job is in Portland. I start in September. You could find something in Seattle, or you could not work at all. I make enough for both of us. You could focus on your research, write your books, be supported, instead of struggling on a professor's salary. It sounded reasonable, romantic even, being supported, having time to write, not worrying about money or department politics. My mother had concerns when I told her, Dorothy, you worked so hard for that PhD. Are you sure you want to give up this opportunity? I'm not giving it up. I'm just adjusting. I'll still research, still write, just from Seattle instead of Portland. And if Harold expects you to be more than a researcher, to be a wife first, what then? He's not like that. He respects my work. But my mother's concerns stayed with me. That little seed of doubt. We got married in October 1978. Small ceremony at a church in the University District. My parents, Harold's mother Elizabeth, a few friends. Simple, traditional, the beginning of forever. We moved into a house in Ballard. 2 bedrooms, small yard. Harold wanted to start a family right away. I wanted to finish my book first. We compromised. I'd finish the book, then we'd talk about children. My first book was published in 1979. Medici patronage and the Renaissance Masters, academic press, small print run, but I was proud. Dr. Dorothy Chen had published scholarship, had contributed to her field. Harold threw a party to celebrate, invited his work colleagues, his business school friends. People talked about finance and markets and investment strategies. My book sat on the coffee table, unopened, unmentioned, decorative. I started my second book in early 1980, but by then I was pregnant. Susan was born in November 1980, beautiful, perfect, demanding. Harold expected me to handle everything, the baby, the house, the cooking, the cleaning. His career was taking off. He was working long hours, couldn't be expected to come home and change diapers or do dishes. You're home all day anyway, he'd say. What else do you have to do? What else did I have to do? Research, writing, the career I'd put on hold to have his child. But saying that felt ungrateful. Selfish Pop, my second book, was published in 1982, Color and Light in Florentine Art. Another academic title, good reviews in scholarly journals. Harold didn't attend the book launch, had an important meeting at work. Mark was born in 1983. Another baby, more demands, more exhaustion. My research slowed to almost nothing. I'd try to write during naps, but by the time I sat down, the baby would wake up, or the phone would ring, or Harold would come home. Wanting Dinner, my third book, came out in 1985, Women Artists of the Italian Renaissance. This one I was particularly proud of. Years of research, original scholarship, important contribution to the field. Harold's reaction, that's nice, honey, is dinner ready? I'm starving. Jennifer was born in 1986. 3 children under 6. My research stopped completely. I couldn't remember the last time I'd written anything longer than a grocery list. Couldn't remember the last time someone called me Dr. Chen. I was just mom, just Harold's wife, just the woman who made sure everyone else's life ran smoothly. My fourth and final book was published in 1989, The Legacy of Lorenzo de' Medici. It had taken me 4 years to finish. Writing in stolen moments, research done during rare quiet hours. It was exhausting, impossible. The last book I'd ever write. Harold barely acknowledged it. Another book. How many of these are you going to do? This is important work. Scholarship that matters. To who? Does it pay anything? Do people even read these? They didn't pay much. Academic publishing was never about money. And not many people read dense art history scholarship, but it mattered. At least it used to matter. Now, I wasn't sure. By 1990, I was 35 years old. 3 children, a husband whose career had skyrocketed while mine had disappeared. I hadn't taught in 12 years, hadn't attended an academic conference in 8 years, hadn't had a conversation about Renaissance art with anyone who cared in longer than I could remember. But my books sat on a shelf in the study, collecting dust, unread. My PhD diploma was in a box somewhere. My identity as Dr. Dorothy Chen had faded until I couldn't remember what that person had felt like, who she'd been, what she'd wanted. I was just Harold's wife, the kid's mom, the woman who made dinner and drove carpool and volunteered at school fundraisers, the woman whose dreams had been put on hold so long they'd fossilized into forgotten relics of a different life. Harold would introduce me at parties. This is my wife, Dorothy. She stays home with the kids. Not this is Dr. Dorothy Chen, published scholar. Not my wife has a PhD and wrote 4 books, just stays home with the kids. As if that was all I'd ever been, all I'd ever be. And slowly, over 12 years, I started to believe it. Started to forget Dr. Dorothy Chen had ever existed. Started to become exactly what Harold and everyone else saw when they looked at me. Just a housewife. Nothing special. Nothing important. Just there. I didn't know then that those 4 books I'd written, those academic titles collecting dust on my shelf, would save me 40 years later. That Dr. Dorothy Chen, though forgotten, was never really gone, but that was decades away. In 1990, I was just trying to survive, trying to be enough for everyone, trying not to think about everything I'd given up, trying not to regret choices I couldn't undo. The 90s were about survival. 3 kids in school, a husband whose career consumed him, a house in Ballard that needed constant maintenance. I became the logistics coordinator of our family. School pickups, soccer practice, piano lessons, doctor appointments, PTA meetings, grocery shopping, meal planning, laundry, endless, thankless laundry. Harold's career exploded. He made partner at his firm in 1992. started bringing home six-figure bonuses. We moved to a bigger house in Laurelhurst in 1995. 4 bedrooms, view of Lake Washington, the kind of house that said we've made it. Except I hadn't made it. I'd just moved to a bigger house to clean. The kids grew. Susan was smart, driven, a lot like Harold. She excelled at everything, on a roll. Captain of the debate team, student body president. Harold was so proud, would brag about her at dinner parties. Susan's going to Stanford. He'd announce, full ride, academic scholarship, that's my girl. Susan adored him, followed him around when she was home, asked his advice on everything, barely talked to me, except to ask what was for dinner, or where her clean laundry was. Mark was quieter, more artistic. He liked to paint, draw, create things. Harold didn't know what to do with that. Art's not a career, he'd tell Mark. It's a hobby. You need to think about business school, law school, something practical. Mark would look at me, hoping I'd defend him, but I couldn't. I'd given up my art history career. How could I tell Mark to pursue art when I'd proven Harold right, that art doesn't pay? Doesn't matter. Jennifer was the youngest, the peacemaker, the one who tried to make everyone happy. She'd help me in the kitchen, ask about my day, actually seemed to care about my answer. Mom, did you really have a PhD? She asked once. She was 12, had found one of my old books, yes, a long time ago. In art history. That's so cool. Why did you stop? I had you kids. It was more important to be your mom than to be a professor. But couldn't you be both? I didn't have an answer for that. Or, I did, but it was too complicated to explain to a 12. That the world doesn't make it easy to be both. That Harold never expected me to be both. That I'd been too tired, too overwhelmed, too ground down to fight for both. Harold's mother Elizabeth died in 1998. She'd never liked me, thought I was too educated, too ambitious, not domestic enough. At her funeral, Harold cried, talked about what an amazing mother she'd been, how she'd sacrificed everything for him. I wondered if he saw the irony, that I'd sacrificed everything for him too. But I was still alive, still invisible. Susan graduated high school in 1998, went to Stanford like Harold wanted, studied business, became more like him every year. The way she talked, the way she dismissed things that didn't fit her worldview, the way she looked at me like I was simple, sweet but simple. Mark went to University of Washington in 2001. Studied architecture, a compromise between art and practicality. Harold tolerated it. Barely. Jennifer went to Seattle University in 2004. Social work, wanted to help people. Harold thought it was a waste of her intelligence, but at least it was a degree, a career. And me, I turned 50 in 2005, half a century old. My kids were grown or nearly grown. My husband worked constantly. I had a beautiful house and nothing to fill my days. I volunteered, library, food bank, hospital auxiliary, kept busy, kept useful, kept pretending I had purpose. My old colleague from UW, Dr. Margaret Foster, ran into me at the library in 2007. We'd been in the PhD program together. She'd become a full professor, department chair, published dozens of articles and books. Dorothy Chen, I haven't seen you in years. Are you still researching? No, I stopped. Family, kids, life. But your work on Medici patronage was groundbreaking. You could have been one of the leading scholars in the field. What happened? What happened? I got married, had children, made choices, or had choices made for me. I couldn't even remember anymore which was which. Life happened, I said. It's fine, I'm happy. But Margaret looked at me with something like pity, and I hated it. Hated that my old colleague felt sorry for me. Hated that I'd become someone people pitied. Harold and I celebrated our 30th anniversary in 2008. He took me to the same restaurant as our first date. It should have been romantic, nostalgic, but we had nothing to talk about. He checked his phone throughout dinner, talked about work, about Susan's success at her consulting job, about Mark's architecture projects, about Jennifer's graduate school plans. Never about me. Never asked about my day or my thoughts or my life, because in his mind, I didn't have a life. I had a house. I had kids. I had him. What else did I need? By 2010, I was 55 years old. Susan was 30, married, working in corporate consulting in San Francisco. Had Harold's drive, his ambition, his dismissiveness of anything that wasn't about money or success. Mark was working at an architecture firm, lived in Portland. called occasionally, visited 4 holidays. Jennifer was in graduate school, studying clinical social work, still the one who called most often, who asked how I was, who seemed to actually care. And Harold was 60, at the peak of his career, making more money than ever, planning his retirement, talking about travel, golf, the life he'd earned, the life we'd earned, he'd say, but it was his life, his retirement, his plans. I was just along for the ride, the accessory wife who'd made it all possible by staying home, staying small, staying invisible. I looked at myself in the mirror on my 55th birthday, gray hair, wrinkles around my eyes, a woman I barely recognized. Where was Dr. Dorothy Chen, the 22-year-old who'd defended a brilliant dissertation, who'd published 4 books, who'd had a career ahead of her? Gone, erased, forgotten, by everyone, including me. I didn't know then that I'd spend the next 15 years getting even smaller, even more invisible, until one day, Harold and Susan would look at me and decide I was so invisible, so insignificant, that I could just be put away. But that was still years ahead. In 2010, I was just a 55-year-old housewife with an empty nest and an emptier life, waiting for something to change, hoping maybe retirement would bring Harold and me closer. I was wrong, but I didn't know that yet. Harold retired in 2015. He was sick. I was 60. He'd worked for 42 years and decided it was time to enjoy life, golf, travel, the things successful men do when they've earned their rest. I'd worked for 37 years, too, unpaid, unrecognized. But nobody threw me a retirement party. Nobody gave me a gold watch or made speeches about my contributions. Harold's retirement changed everything. He was home all the time, in my space, my kitchen, my routines. Suddenly, he had opinions about everything I did. Why are you doing laundry on Tuesday? It makes more sense to do it Monday. Why are you buying that brand? This one's cheaper. Why are you volunteering so much? I'm home now. You should be here with me. But when I was home with him, he didn't actually want to be with me. He wanted me available, making his lunch, watching his golf shows, existing in the background of his retirement. Susan got married in 2016 to Derek, another corporate consultant. They had a wedding in Napa Valley, expensive, elegant, 200 guests. Susan planned every detail, asked Harold's opinion on everything, asked mine on nothing. "Mom, you don't really understand wedding planning," she said when I suggested something. "Derek and I have this handled. You can just show up and enjoy. Show up and enjoy watching my daughter get married without being part of any of it." That was my role, silent observer, in my own daughter's life. Harold gave a speech at the reception, talked about Susan's childhood, her achievements, her success, how proud he was, never mentioned me, never acknowledged that I'd raised her, that I'd been there for every school event, every milestone, every moment he'd been too busy working to attend. Susan's career flourished. She made partner at her consulting firm in 2018, 38 years old. Harold talked about her constantly. Susan made partner. Susan's traveling to Singapore for a client. Susan bought a house in Presidio Heights. Mark got married quietly in 2017. Small ceremony in Portland. His wife Rachel was an artist, painter. Harold barely attended, made it clear he thought Mark was wasting his potential. I went, tried to be supportive, but I could see Mark pulling away. From Harold, from all of us. Jennifer got engaged in 2019 to James, a teacher. Harold thought she was settling. A teacher, with her degrees. She could have married someone successful. He's a good man. He makes her happy. Happy doesn't pay the mortgage. That was Harold. Everything measured in money, success, status, love didn't factor into the equation. I turned 65 in 2020. The year the world stopped for the pandemic. We were locked down in our Laurelhurst house, just Harold and me. 24 hours a day, nowhere to go, nothing to do but exist together. It was suffocating. Harold complained constantly about being stuck, about missing golf, about how I was in his way in the kitchen, about how I didn't understand how hard this was for him. "You're used to being home," he'd say. "This is normal for you. For me, it's prison." Prison. That's what being home with me felt like to him. Prison. Jennifer called often during lockdown, checking on us, on me specifically. "Mom, are you okay? You sound tired." "I'm fine. Just a lot of time with your father. He's not used to being home this much. He's been retired 5 years. He should be used to it by now." "Mom, is he being difficult?" "It's fine. We're fine." But we weren't fine. We were two people who'd spent 42 years in a marriage and had nothing to say to each other. Nothing in common. Nothing but history and obligation holding us together. Susan didn't call much, too busy working from home, managing clients remotely. Her career didn't stop for a pandemic. When she did call, she talked to Harold, asked his advice, his opinions. I was just the person who answered the phone and handed it to him. By late 2020, something shifted in Harold. He became more critical, more dismissive, started making comments about my memory. You already told me that story. You forgot to buy milk. Again. Where did you put my glasses? You're always moving things. I wasn't moving things. Wasn't forgetting more than usual. But Harold started building a narrative. Dorothy's memory is going. Dorothy can't keep track of things. Dorothy's getting old. I was 6. He was 7. But somehow, my aging was a problem, and his wasn't. In 2021, Harold started talking to Susan about me. I'd hear them on phone calls, his study door not quite closed. Your mother's been forgetful lately. She left the stove on last week. Could have burned the house down. I'm worried about her being alone when I'm out. I'd left the burner on once in 43 years of cooking, but to Harold, it was evidence, proof I was declining, becoming incompetent, needing supervision. Susan started treating me differently after those calls. Talking slower, explaining things I already understood, looking at me with concern that felt more like pity. Mom, are you remembering to take your vitamins? Mom, have you thought about writing things down, making lists? Mom, maybe you should see a doctor. Get checked. I wasn't forgetting things. I was fine. But when two people start telling you something's wrong with you, you start to doubt yourself. Start to wonder if maybe they're right, my friend. Betty moved to Seattle in early 2022. We'd met at a conference 40 years ago, stayed in touch sporadically. She'd been widowed 5 years earlier, decided to move to the city, wanted community, proximity to culture. We met for coffee at a cafe in the University District. She was 75, sharp, energetic, funny, everything I'd forgotten I could be. Dorothy, it's been too long. Tell me everything. How's life? It's fine. Harold retired. Kids are grown, grandkids on the way, normal life. You say fine, like it's not fine. What's really going on? I told her about Harold's retirement, his constant presence, his criticisms, the comments about my memory. He's gaslighting you, Betty said flatly, making you think you're incompetent so he can control you more. I've seen it before. My first husband did the same thing. Harold's not like that. He's just worried, is he? Or is he building a case? Dorothy, be careful. Men like him don't just worry. They plan. I didn't believe her then, didn't want to believe that Harold was calculating, manipulating, building evidence for something. But Betty was right. Harold was planning, and by October 2024, his plan was ready. I just didn't know it yet. The gaslighting intensified through 2023. Harold started keeping a list, writing down every time I forgot something, every small mistake, every normal moment of being 70 years old. You asked me that yesterday. You put the milk in the pantry instead of the fridge. You couldn't remember Jennifer's husband's name. It's James. You've known him for 4 years. I had remembered James's name, had just blanked for a second while talking. It happens. But to Harold, it was evidence. Another item for his list. Susan visited in March 2023, came to Seattle for work, stayed at our house instead of a hotel. I made her favorite meals, set up the guest room perfectly, tried to connect with my daughter. She spent the whole time working, on calls, on her laptop. The only real conversation we had was when she cornered me in the kitchen. Mom, Dad told me you've been forgetting things. A lot of things. I'm fine. Your father exhausts. He's worried. I'm worried. Have you seen a doctor? I don't need a doctor. I'm 70 years old. Sometimes I forget where I put my keys. That's normal. It's not just keys, Mom. Dad says you forget conversations, repeat yourself, get confused about what day it is. That's not true. He's making it sound worse than it is. Susan looked at me with that expression, the one that said she believed Harold, not me. That said I was being defensive because I couldn't see how bad things were. Maybe you should let us help you, she said, before something happens. Before something happens, like I was a ticking time bomb, a problem waiting to explode. Harold started suggesting, I see a doctor in the summer of 2023, just a checkup, make sure everything's okay. I went to my regular doctor, Dr. Patricia Wells. I'd been seeing her for 20 years. Told her about Harold's concerns, about the list, about feeling like I was being watched for mistakes. Dr. Wells ran tests, cognitive assessments, memory checks. Everything came back normal. Dorothy, you're fine. Your memory is completely normal for your age, maybe slightly better than average, actually. There's no sign of dementia or cognitive decline. Can you tell my husband that? I can. But Dorothy, be honest with me. Is everything okay at home? The way you describe Harold's behavior concerns me. He's just worried. Is he? Or is he controlling? Because what you're describing sounds less like concern and more like surveillance. I didn't want to hear that. Didn't want to admit that my husband of 45 years was being controlling, manipulative, that Betty had been right. I showed Harold the doctor's report, clean bill of health, normal cognitive function, no concerns. That's good, he said. But doctors don't see what I see every day. Living with you, watching you struggle. I wasn't struggling, but Harold needed me to be struggling, needed the narrative he was building. My 70th birthday was in October 2024, a Saturday. I woke up hoping maybe this year would be different. Maybe Harold would acknowledge it, make it special. He played golf all morning, came home at 2, didn't mention my birthday. Did you make lunch? He asked. I'm starving. It's my birthday, right? Happy birthday. Is there any of that chicken salad left? That was it. Happy birthday. Now make me lunch. Susan called that evening. Happy birthday, Mom. Sorry I can't be there. Work's crazy. It's okay. Dad said, you're doing okay. Not forgetting as much lately. I was never forgetting things. Susan, Mom, don't be defensive. We're just trying to help. Jennifer called later. Actually remembered. Actually cared. Mom, happy birthday. I'm sorry I can't visit, but I'm thinking of you. I love you. I love you too, sweetheart. Are you okay? You sound sad. I'm fine. Just another birthday, Mom. If you're not fine, you can tell me. I'm here for you. But I couldn't tell her, couldn't admit that I felt invisible, forgotten, like turning 70 was just another day nobody cared about. The next week, Harold asked me to sit down, said he needed to talk. Susan was on speakerphone. Mark was on Zoom from Portland. Jennifer was there in person. She'd driven up from her apartment in Belputan. We need to discuss Mom's living situation. Harold started. My living situation. I was sitting in my own house. What was there to discuss? Your father and I have been talking, Susan said from the phone. We think it might be time to consider other options. What kind of options? Jennifer asked. She looked confused, concerned. There's a wonderful senior living community in Northgate. Heritage Gardens, beautiful facility, active community, professional care available if needed. Heritage Gardens, a nursing home? They were talking about putting me in a nursing home. I don't need a nursing home. I'm fine. I live here, Mom. It's not a nursing home. It's independent living, with support. Susan's voice was patient, like she was talking to a child. I don't need support. I'm 70, not 90. Dorothy, this is for your own good, Harold said. You need people around, activities. I can't watch you all the time. I deserve my retirement without constantly worrying. You don't need to watch me. I'm not a child. Mom, Dad's been keeping track, Susan said. You've had multiple incidents, forgetting things, getting confused. He's exhausted. I showed you the doctor's report. I'm fine. Mark spoke up. I don't know about this. Mom seems okay to me. Maybe we're rushing into something. You're in Portland, Susan snapped. You don't see what we see. Dad lives with her. He knows. Jennifer was quiet, looking at me, at Harold, at the phone where Susan's voice kept pushing, advocating, deciding my life without my input. When would this happen? Jennifer asked quietly. We've already put down a deposit, Harold said. She can move in November 1st. 2 weeks. They'd already decided, already made plans, already put down money. This wasn't a discussion. It was an announcement. I don't want to go. This is my home. Dorothy, be reasonable. You can't live here alone if something happens to me. This way, you're set up, safe, cared for. Nothing's going to happen to you, and I can take care of myself. But nobody was listening. Harold had made his case. Susan had backed him up. Mark was too far away to fight. Jennifer was too uncertain to object. And me, I was just the 70-year-old woman whose opinion didn't matter, who was being moved like furniture, relocated like a problem that needed solving. The decision was made. November 1st. Heritage Gardens, my new home whether I wanted it or not. I looked at Harold that night, 46 years of marriage, and he was putting me away, erasing me from his life, his retirement, his freedom. I'd given up my career for him, my identity, 46 years of being his wife, and this was how it ended, with me being put in a facility so he could enjoy his golden years without the burden of me. Betty was right. He'd been building a case, planning, and now the plan was in motion. I had 2 weeks before everything changed. 2 weeks before I became a resident at Heritage Gardens, before I stopped being Dorothy who lived in Laurelhurst and became Dorothy who lived in a senior facility. 2 weeks before I disappeared completely, or so they thought. Asterisk, they moved me on November 1st, a Thursday. Harold and Susan packed my things, decided what I could take, what I couldn't, what would fit in my new life. You don't need all these books, Mom. There's a library at Heritage Gardens. These are my books, the ones I wrote. Susan picked one up, Medici Patronage and the Renaissance Masters. She flipped through it, set it down. This is pretty dry stuff. Nobody's going to read it here. Let's leave them. Those books are important to me. Mom, you need to be practical. The apartment's small. We have to prioritize. Prioritize. My life's work wasn't a priority. They let me take one book. I chose the first one, the dissertation that became a publication. Dr. Dorothy Chen's first contribution to her field, the last piece of evidence that she'd ever existed. The apartment at Heritage Gardens was nice enough. Studio, small kitchen, bathroom, Murphy bed that folded into the wall, a window overlooking a courtyard where residents sat on benches looking lost. This was where people came to wait, to fade, to be forgotten by families who found them inconvenient. Harold helped me unpack, hung some pictures, set up my few belongings, acted like this was all very normal, very reasonable. See, it's nice, you'll make friends, join activities, it'll be good for you. When will you visit? Sundays. I'll come on Sundays, bring you anything you need. Sundays, once a week. After 46 years of marriage, I'd see my husband once a week, like a duty, an obligation, a box to check. Susan left for the airport straight from Heritage Gardens, had a meeting in New York she couldn't miss, hugged me briefly. You'll be fine, Mom, this is for the best, for the best. For whose best? Not mine. Jennifer came that evening, brought flowers, a blanket, actual tears in her eyes. Mom, I'm so sorry. I should have fought harder, should have said something. It's okay. Your father made up his mind. It's not okay. This is wrong. You're fine. You don't need to be here. Apparently I do. Apparently I'm a burden. You're not a burden. Dad's just selfish. He wants his retirement without responsibility. And Susan. Jennifer's voice broke. Susan should know better. She's your daughter. But Susan wasn't really my daughter anymore. She was Harold's daughter, his protege, his clone. She saw me the way he saw me, as something that had outlived its usefulness. I spent my first night at Heritage Gardens crying, quietly, in a Murphy bed in a studio apartment in Northgate, 70 years old and living like a college student. Except college students had futures. I had nothing but a shrinking present. I met Betty the next morning. She was in the common room, reading a book, eating toast. She looked up when I walked in, recognized me immediately. Dorothy Chen. Is that you? Betty Morrison. What are you doing here? I live here. Moved in last month. What are you doing here? I live here now too. My husband put me here. Betty's expression darkened. Put you here. You don't need to be here. You're sharp as a tack. We got coffee, sat by the window. I told her everything. Harold's the list, the family meeting, the decision made without me. He's railroading you, Betty said, building a case so he can warehouse you here while he lives his best life. I've seen it before. Men do this. They retire and suddenly their wives are inconvenient, cramping their style. I don't know what to do. You fight, you document, you prove you're competent, and you get the hell out of here. I can't. Harold controls everything, the money, the house, all of it. Does he? Dorothy, you were married 46 years. You have rights, assets. You're entitled to half of everything he's built, everything you helped him build by being home all those years. I don't even know what we have. He handles all the finances. Then it's time you find out. Betty became my lifeline, my friend, She'd been through her own hell with a controlling husband, divorced him in her 50s, started over, built a life on her own terms. I chose to live here, she explained. I don't need to be here, but I like the community, the activities, the freedom from maintaining a house. But I chose it. That's the difference. Choice. That was the difference. Betty had agency. I had none. Harold visited that first Sunday. Brought nothing. Stayed 20 minutes. Asked if I was settling in, if I needed anything, looked relieved when I said I was fine. Couldn't wait to leave. I'll see you next week, he said. Call if you need anything. But I couldn't call. Not really. Couldn't complain. Couldn't say I hated it here. Couldn't say I wanted to come home, because there was no home to come back to. Harold had erased me from that life. Susan called twice in November, both times asking how I was adjusting. Both times sounding relieved when I said it was fine. Neither time asking if I wanted to come home. Neither time acknowledging that this had been done to me, not for me. Jennifer visited 3 times the first week, then twice a week after that. She felt guilty, felt responsible, felt like she'd failed me. You didn't fail me, sweetheart. You were outvoted, outmaneuvered. I should have been louder, stronger. I should have stopped them. Nobody stops your father when his mind's made up. Mark called once, awkward, uncomfortable. Mom, are you okay there? I'm fine. Good, that's good. He didn't ask anything else, didn't visit, didn't push, just accepted the narrative that this was fine, normal, the right thing. By the end of November, I'd settled into a routine: breakfast in the common room, walks in the courtyard, reading, avoiding activities designed to keep seniors busy and docile, spending time with Betty. She was teaching me things about rights, about options, about the fact that I wasn't as powerless as I thought. Dorothy, how much money do you think you and Harold have? I don't know. He never talks about it. Guess, maybe $1 million. From his retirement and investments, probably more. He was a partner at a financial firm, made partner bonuses for decades. You've been in that Laurelhurst house for 30 years. That's worth $2 million, easy. Just that house. That's Harold's money. His career? No, it's marital assets, community property. You were married the whole time. He earned that money. You raised his children, managed his home, supported his career. That money is as much yours as his. I don't have access to any accounts. Then we get you access. We demand financial disclosure. We figure out exactly what you're entitled to. Why would I do that? Because knowledge is power. And right now, Harold has all the power because you don't know what you have, what you're owed, what's legally yours. I didn't want to fight Harold. Didn't want to be difficult. Didn't want to rock the boat. 46 years of training told me to accept, accommodate, make peace. But 4 years of training had landed me in a studio apartment in Heritage Gardens, while Harold played golf and planned cruises with money I'd helped him accumulate. Maybe it was time to stop accommodating, stop accepting, stop making peace. Maybe it was time to fight. Betty could see me thinking, processing, the shift happening behind my eyes. There she is, Betty said quietly. Dr. Dorothy Chen. I was wondering when she'd show up. Dr. Dorothy Chen. The woman I'd been before I became just Harold's wife, before I became invisible, before I gave up everything and got nothing in return. Maybe she'd been there all along, just buried, forgotten, waiting for someone to remember she existed. It was time to remember. Betty didn't waste time. The next day, she brought me papers, forms, information about elder law attorneys in Seattle. First thing you need is legal representation, someone who specializes in elder abuse and financial exploitation. Elder abuse. Harold didn't abuse me, Dorothy. He isolated you, moved you here against your will, controls all your finances, has convinced your family you're incompetent when you're not. That's textbook financial elder abuse, and it's illegal. I'd never thought of it that way, never thought of Harold as abusive. He'd never hit me, never screamed, never threatened. But maybe abuse looked different at 70. Maybe it looked like lists and gaslighting and being put away. Betty had already researched attorneys, found 3 who specialized in elder law, made appointments for phone consultations. How do I pay for an attorney? I don't have money. Do you have a credit card? Harold has the credit cards. In his name only. No joint accounts. My name's on them too. Then use one. You're entitled. It's your money too. It felt wrong, sneaky, like I was stealing, but Betty was right. My name was on those accounts. I'd been married to Harold for 46 years. That money was as much mine as his. The first consultation was with Angela Rodriguez, elder law attorney, 55 years old, sharp voice, direct questions. Mrs. Thompson, tell me why you're calling. I told her everything, the gaslighting, the list, the doctor's report that said I was fine, the family meeting, being moved to Heritage Gardens, and your husband controls all the finances. Yes, I don't even know what we have. That's a problem. In Washington state, you're entitled to full financial disclosure. As his wife, you have rights to all marital assets. When did you get married? October 1978, so 46 years. Everything acquired during that marriage is community property. Half yours, half his. Unless you signed a prenuptial agreement. No, we didn't have one. Good, that makes this simpler. Do you want to file for divorce? Divorce. The word hit me like cold water. 46 years of marriage, 3 children, a lifetime together. Could I really end it? I don't know. I just want out of this place. I want to go home. Home to your marital residence, where your husband lives. Yes, Mrs. Thompson, I need you to understand something. Your husband moved you out of your home, put you in a facility, isolated you from your normal life. He's not going to welcome you back. This was intentional, calculated. If you want to reclaim your life, you're going to have to fight for it. And that probably means divorce. The word kept echoing, divorce. At 7, after 46, starting over when most people were ending. I need to think about it. That's fair. But while you're thinking, I want you to do something. Gather documents, bank statements, investment accounts, property deeds, tax returns, anything you can access. We need to know what we're dealing with. After the call, I sat in my small apartment feeling overwhelmed. How was I supposed to get documents? Harold had everything at home, in his study, in files I'd never touched. Betty had an idea. Call Jennifer. Tell her you need some things from the house. Personal items, papers. She helped. Jennifer came the next day. I gave her a list. My birth certificate, our marriage license, tax returns from the past 3 years, bank statements, if she could find them. Mom, why do you need these? Just want to have my own copies, in case something happens to your father. Jennifer looked skeptical but agreed. Dad's playing golf tomorrow. I'll go to the house then. She came back 2 days later with a folder. Documents, statements, more than I'd expected. Mom, I found something else. In the storage room. Boxes of your old things, your books, your PhD diploma, papers from your academic career. My PhD diploma. I'd thought they'd thrown it away, lost it in the move, but it had been there, stored, forgotten, like me. Can you bring those boxers? All of them, please. Jennifer brought them the next week. For boxers, my entire academic life, books I'd written, articles I'd published, letters from colleagues, awards, recognition, proof that Dr. Dorothy Chen had existed, had mattered. And something else, something I'd completely forgotten about. Royalty statements, from my academic publishers, going back decades. Statements I'd never opened, never paid attention to. Because Harold had handled all the finances, all the mail, everything, and I'd never questioned it, never thought to look. Betty and I went through them together. Statement after statement, small amounts, $50 here, $200 there. Academic books didn't make much money, but they made something, and those somethings had been going somewhere for 45 years. Dorothy, look at this. These royalties were direct deposited into an account number. What account? I don't know, but we need to find out. I called the publisher, explained I was Dr. Dorothy Chen, that I'd written books for them decades ago, that I needed to know where my royalties were being sent. The woman on the phone was helpful. Let me look, Dr. Chen. Yes, 4 titles with us. Still generating royalties, being deposited into an account at First National Bank. Account number ending in 4782. First National Bank. I'd had an account there when I was young, before the first married Harold. In my maiden name, I'd opened it with my first teaching salary. Had completely forgotten about it after the wedding. Can you tell me the name on the account? Dorothy Chen. Not Dorothy Thompson. Not my married name. My maiden name. The account I'd opened at the last piece of Dr. Dorothy Chen that had survived. Betty drove me to the bank the next morning. I walked up to a teller, gave my name, my social security number, asked about the account. The teller looked it up. Her eyes widened slightly. Yes, ma'am. We have an account for Dorothy Chen. Would you like to access it? How much is in it? She checked again. $847,632.18. I thought I'd misheard. 800,000. Yes, ma'am. The account has been receiving deposits since 1979. Small amounts, monthly, but it's been accumulating for 45 years with interest. 45 years of royalties. Of my books generating income I didn't know about. Money Harold didn't know existed, because it was in my maiden name, in an account from before our marriage. Separate property, completely mine. I had $847,000. Money that was mine alone. Money Harold couldn't touch. Money that changed everything. Betty looked at me. Dorothy, do you understand what this means? I understood exactly what it meant. It meant I wasn't powerless, wasn't dependent, wasn't the helpless old woman Harold and Susan had decided I was. It meant Dr. Dorothy Chen wasn't just a memory. She was real. She'd been working this whole time, publishing, earning, building something without even knowing it. It meant I could fight, could leave, could start over. It meant I had choices. I called Angela Rodriguez that afternoon. I'd like to schedule an in-person consultation. I'm ready to file for divorce. What changed your mind? I found out who I am, and I'm not who they think I am. Angela laughed. I love when that happens. Let's talk about your options. My options? For the first time in 46 years, I had options that weren't determined by Harold, approved by Harold, controlled by Harold. I was 70 years old, living in a studio apartment in a senior facility, and I'd just discovered I had nearly $1 million and a PhD, and a lifetime of accomplishments Harold had made me forget. It was time to remind everyone who Dr. Dorothy Chen was, starting with myself. I met Angela Rodriguez in person on January 10th at her office in downtown Seattle. Professional building, 20th floor, view of Elliott Bay. The kind of office that said success, competence, power. Angela was exactly as she'd sounded on the phone. Sharp, direct, no nonsense. She shook my hand firmly, looked me in the eye. Mrs. Thompson, or would you prefer Dr. Chen? Dorothy is fine. Dorothy, then, let's talk about what you want. What did I want? I wanted my life back, my home, my dignity, my identity. I wanted Harold to understand that I wasn't disposable, wasn't invisible, wasn't nothing. I want a divorce. I want my share of our marital asset, and I want out of Heritage Gardens. All achievable. Let's talk about what you have and what you're entitled to. I showed her the bank statements Jennifer had found, the tax returns, the property deed to the Laurelhurst house. Everything documented our financial life, Harold's retirement accounts, investment portfolios, the house, all of it acquired during our 46-year marriage. Based on these documents, you're looking at approximately $3 million in total marital assets. Half of that is yours, $1.5 million, and my separate account, the $847,000. That's yours free and clear, opened before marriage, in your maiden name, separate property. Harold has no claim to it. So you're looking at about $2.3 million total. $2.3 million. I'd been living like I had nothing, like I was dependent, like I needed Harold's permission to exist. And the whole time, I'd had nearly $1 million I didn't know about, plus half of everything we'd built together. How does this work? The divorce process. We file a petition, serve Harold with papers. He has 20 days to respond. Washington is a no-fault divorce state, so we don't need to prove anything except that the marriage is irretrievably broken, which it clearly is. He's going to fight this. Of course he is. Men like Harold always fight. They think they own everything, including their wives, but Washington law is clear. You're entitled to half the marital assets, and given his behavior, putting you in Heritage Gardens against your will, we may be able to argue for more. I don't want more. I just want what's fair. Fair is half. Let's start there. We filed on January 15th. The petition for dissolution of marriage was straightforward. Irreconcilable differences, request for equitable division of assets, request for spousal maintenance, standard divorce language, but the asset list was specific. The Laurelhurst house valued at $2 million. Harold's retirement accounts, his investments, his pension, everything listed, everything claimed as community property. Harold was served papers at home on January 17th. A Saturday morning, the process server handed them to him at the front door, returned the proof of service to Angela's office. Harold called me 20 minutes later, furious, confused, shocked. Dorothy, what the hell is this? You're divorcing me. Yes, after 46. You can't be serious. I'm completely serious. This is insane. You're having some kind of breakdown. This isn't you. This is exactly me. The me you put in Heritage Gardens so you could enjoy your retirement without the burden of a wife. I put you there for your own good. You needed care, supervision. I showed you the doctor's report. I'm fine. You put me there because I was inconvenient, because you wanted me gone. That's not true. Dorothy, you're not thinking clearly. Someone's influencing you. That Betty woman, she's putting ideas in your head. Betty's helping me remember who I am, something you made me forget. This is ridiculous. You're 70 years old. Where are you going to go? What are you going to do? You need me. No, Harold, I don't. I have my own money, my own resources. I don't need you at all. What money? You don't have any money. Everything we have, I earned. Not everything. And half of what you earned is legally mine. 46 years of community property. There was silence on the other end. Harold processing, calculating, realizing this wasn't a confused old woman having a breakdown. This was someone who knew exactly what she was doing. I'm calling Susan. She needs to know about this. Call whoever you want. The papers are filed. The divorce is happening whether you like it or not. He hung up. I sat in my studio apartment shaking. Not from fear. From adrenaline. From the realization that I'd just stood up to Harold for the first time in 46 years. Betty knocked on my door 10 minutes later. I heard raised voices. You okay? I'm okay. Harold called. He's shocked, angry, threatened to call Susan. Of course he did. Let him call. They can be shocked together. Susan called that evening, Sunday dinner time. Her voice tight, controlled, furious. Mom, what are you doing? Dad called me, said, you're divorcing him. This is insane. It's not insane. It's necessary. Necessary. You've been married 46 years. You can't just throw that away. I'm not throwing it away. Your father did when he put me in Heritage Gardens like I was a piece of furniture he was tired of looking at. He put you there because you needed care, because your memory was going, because it was best for you. My memory is fine. The doctor said so. But nobody listened to the doctor. Your father wanted me gone, and you helped him. I was helping him take care of you. No, Susan, you were helping him get rid of me, so he could have his retirement, his freedom, his life without the inconvenience of a wife. That's not fair. What's not fair is being erased, dismissed, put away. I gave up my career for your father, my identity, 46 years of being who he needed me to be, and the minute I became inconvenient, he threw me away. With your help. Susan's voice got colder, harder. This is that Betty woman. She's manipulating you, turning you against your family. Betty's helping me see clearly, something I should have done years ago. If you go through with this, you're going to regret it. Dad's not going to just give you half of everything he worked for. He didn't work for it alone. I was there, raising your children, managing his home, supporting his career. Washington law says I'm entitled to half, and I'm taking it. You're making a mistake. The only mistake I made was staying silent for 46 years. That ends now. Susan hung up. No goodbye, no acknowledgement that I might have a point. Just fury that I was disrupting her father's comfortable life. Jennifer called an hour later. She'd heard from Susan. Mom, is it true? You're divorcing Dad? Yes. Good. Good. He's been terrible to you. What he did, putting you in Heritage Gardens, that was cruel. You deserve better. Susan doesn't think so. Susan's always been Dad's daughter. She sees you the way he sees you. But I see you, Mom. I see what you gave up, what you sacrificed, and I think you're brave for finally choosing yourself. I started crying. My youngest daughter, the one who'd always been the peacemaker, the one I'd worried wouldn't understand, she understood perfectly. Thank you, sweetheart. I'm here for you, whatever you need. I'm on your side. Mark called the next day. Awkward, uncomfortable. Mom, I heard about the divorce. Are you sure? I'm sure. It's just such a big step. At your age, after so long. At my age, I don't have time to waste. If I don't do this now, I never will. Where will you live? I'll figure it out. I have options. Options. Mark, I need you to understand something. I'm not the helpless old woman everyone decided I was. I have resources, capabilities. I'm going to be fine. If you're sure, I'm sure. He didn't offer support like Jennifer did, but he didn't side with Harold and Susan either. He stayed neutral, which was better than nothing. Angela called on January 20th. Harold's attorney responded. They're challenging everything, claiming you're incompetent, that you've been unduly influenced, that the divorce petition was filed under duress. Of course they are. We anticipated this. That's why we have your doctor's evaluation, your cognitive tests, everything proving you're perfectly competent. And we have something else. What? Your PhD, your books, your academic career. We're going to show the court exactly who Dr. Dorothy Chen is, and make it very clear that you're not some confused old woman. You're a published scholar who was gaslit into thinking she was nothing. When do we go to court? First hearing is February 15th. Temporary orders. will request that you get access to marital funds, that Harold can't dissipate assets, that you're established as competent and capable. February 15. For weeks away, for weeks until I'd stand in front of a judge and claim my life back, for weeks until Harold and Susan would learn that underestimating me was their biggest mistake. I was 70 years old. I had a PhD, nearly $1 million in my own account, and a damn good attorney. The wrinkled old hag they'd put away was done being quiet. Dr. Dorothy Chen was ready to fight. The hearing was at King County Superior Court. February 15, 9 a.m. I wore a navy blue suit Betty helped me pick out. Professional, competent, not the confused old woman Harold's attorney would try to paint me as. Harold sat across the courtroom with his attorney, Richard Palmer. Expensive suit, slicked back hair, the kind of lawyer who made you feel guilty just for existing. Susan sat behind Harold, moral support. Jennifer sat behind me. She'd taken the day off work to be there. Judge Patricia Morrison presided. 60s, no-nonsense expression. She'd seen it all. Harold's attorney went first, painted me as confused, declining, manipulated by Betty, claimed I'd filed for divorce under duress, that I wasn't capable of making such decisions. Your Honor, Mrs. Thompson has been experiencing memory loss, cognitive decline. Her family placed her in Heritage Gardens for her own safety. And now, influenced by another resident, she's making rash decisions that will harm her financially and emotionally. Angela stood. Your Honor, may I present evidence? She submitted Dr. Wells's evaluation, the cognitive tests, all showing I was completely normal. No dementia, no decline, competent and capable. Then she did something I didn't expect. She pulled out my PhD diploma, my 4 published books, my academic CV. Your Honor, this is Dr. Dorothy Chen, published scholar, author of 4 academic texts, still generating royalties 45 years after publication. She holds a doctorate from the University of Washington. She's not a confused old woman. She's a brilliant academic who was systematically erased by her husband. The judge looked at the books, flipped through one, looked at me, double quotes, Dr. Chen, is it true you wrote these? Yes, Your Honor. And you hold a PhD in art history? Yes, Your Honor. Awarded in 1977. And Mr. Thompson, you were aware your wife held a doctorate? Harold's attorney answered, that was nearly 50 years ago, Your Honor. Ancient history, not relevant to her current state. Judge Morrison's expression hardened. Counsel, I decide what's relevant. Dr. Chen, why did you stop your academic career? I married Mr. Thompson, had children. He wanted me home. I gave up my position at Reed College to be his wife. And in the 46 years since, has Mr. Thompson acknowledged your academic achievements? No, Your Honor. He introduced me as my wife who stays home with the kids. Never mentioned my doctorate, my publications. It was like Dr. Dorothy Chen never existed. Susan shifted uncomfortably. The judge noticed. Miss Thompson, you're the daughter. Did you know your mother had a PhD? Susan stood. Yes, Your Honor. But it was a long time ago. Did you think it was relevant? Important? Not really. Mom was a housewife. That was her life. Her life, or the life she was expected to live. Susan had no answer. Angela presented the financial records, the Laurelhurst house, Harold's retirement accounts, everything acquired during the marriage. Your Honor, Dr. Chen is entitled to half of all marital assets, approximately $1.5 million. Additionally, she has $847,000 in separate property, an account opened before marriage, in her maiden name, funded by royalties from her academic work. Harold's face went white. He hadn't known I had money, hadn't known the books he'd dismissed were still earning. His attorney tried to recover. Your Honor, even if Mrs. Thompson has separate funds, she's still not competent to manage counsel. Stop. Judge Morrison's voice was sharp. I've reviewed the medical evidence. Dr. Chen is perfectly competent. What I'm seeing here is a pattern of a husband who diminished his wife's accomplishments, erased her identity, and then institutionalized her when she became inconvenient to his retirement plans. She looked at Harold. Mr. Thompson, you put your wife in Heritage Gardens against her will. Harold stood. For her own good, Your Honor. Her doctor says she didn't need it. Dr. Chen says she didn't want it. So whose good was it really for? Harold sat down, silent. Judge Morrison made her ruling. Petition for divorce granted. Temporary orders. Dr. Chen has access to marital accounts. Mr. Thompson is prohibited from dissipating assets. Dr. Chen is free to leave Heritage Gardens immediately. She is found competent and capable. This court sees no evidence of undue influence or diminished capacity. I'd won. The judge had seen through Harold, seen through Susan, seen me for who I actually was. Dr. Dorothy Chen, scholar, survivor, free. It's June 2025 now. 8 months since Harold and Susan put me in Heritage Gardens. 7 months since I filed for divorce. 4 months since the judge set me free. I'm 71 years old, and I'm living the life I was meant to live all along. The divorce was finalized in April. I got half the marital assets, $1.5 million, plus my separate account, $847,000, total, $2.3 million. Harold kept the Laurelhurst house. He had to buy out my half. It hurt him financially. Good. I bought a beautiful condo in Capitol Hill, 2 bedrooms, view of the Space Needle, modern, bright, mine, all mine. No memories of being invisible, no ghosts of Dr. Dorothy Chen forgotten in storage boxes. Betty lives 3 blocks away. We have coffee every morning, walk around Volunteer Park, go to museum exhibits, live the life of 2 women who chose freedom over obligation. Jennifer visits twice a week. We've rebuilt our relationship. She apologized for not fighting harder at that family meeting. I told her she was young, outnumbered, outmaneuvered by her father and sister. Mark visits when he's in Seattle. We're slowly reconnecting. He's ashamed he didn't defend me. I've forgiven him. Forgiveness doesn't mean forgetting, but it means moving forward. Susan and I haven't spoken since the hearing. She sent 1 email, cold, brief. I hope you're happy with your choice. I am happy, happier than I've been in 46 years. Harold calls occasionally, wanting to talk, wanting reconciliation, wanting me to understand he was just trying to help. I don't answer. There's nothing left to say to a man who spent 46 years making me invisible. Something else happened in April. Something unexpected, something wonderful. I met George Harrison at a lecture at the University of Washington. Renaissance Art Symposium. I was attending as an audience member, hadn't been to one in 40 years. George was the keynote speaker. Professor of Art History, 74 years old, silver hair, kind eyes, brilliant mind. He mentioned my first book in his lecture, Medici Patronage and the Renaissance Masters by Dr. Dorothy Chen remains one of the most insightful analyses of patronage systems in Renaissance Florence. After the lecture, I introduced myself. I'm Dorothy Chen. His face lit up. Dr. Chen, your work influenced my entire career. I assign your books to my graduate students. Where have you been? Why haven't you published more? I got married, gave it up, became invisible for 46 years. What a loss to the field, and what a waste of a brilliant mind. We had coffee, then dinner, then more dinners. George treats me like I'm valuable, important, brilliant. He asks my opinions, listens when I talk, sees Dr. Dorothy Chen, not just Harold's discarded wife. We're not married. I'm not rushing into anything, but we're together, happy, building something based on mutual respect instead of erasure. I'm writing again, a new book, Reclaiming the Renaissance, Women Artists and Forgotten Voices, about the women who were erased from art history, the brilliant minds dismissed because they didn't fit the narrative. It's personal, cathartic, necessary. The University of Washington asked me to guest lecture this fall. 47 years after I left academia, Dr. Dorothy Chen is coming home. I'm 71 years old. I have a PhD, $2.3 million, a beautiful condo, a wonderful man who values me, and a book contract. 8 months ago, I was in Heritage Gardens, invisible, dismissed, put away like furniture nobody wanted anymore. Today, I'm Dr. Dorothy Chen, author, scholar, survivor, free. If you're listening to this and you're 60, 70, 80, and you think it's too late to reclaim your life, hear this. It's never too late. Never too late to remember who you were. Never too late to become who you're meant to be. Never too late to stop being invisible and start taking up space. My husband and daughter put me in a nursing home because they decided I didn't matter anymore, because being just a housewife meant being nothing. But I was never just anything. I was Dr. Dorothy Chen, published scholar, brilliant mind, woman who survived 46 years of erasure and came out stronger. They thought putting me away would solve their problem, make me disappear quietly, make their lives easier. Instead, it woke me up, reminded me who I was, gave me back the life I'd given up. At my hearing, the judge asked Susan, "Was this your mother's life, or the life she was expected to live. For 46 years, I lived the life I was expected to live. The good wife, the devoted mother, the invisible woman who existed to serve. Now I'm living my life, the one I choose, the one I deserve, and it's never been better. Subscribe for more stories about women who refused to disappear, who chose themselves, who proved that age is just a number, and power comes from knowing your worth. My name is Dr. Dorothy Chen. I'm 71 years old, and I'm living proof that the best revenge isn't revenge at all. It's living well, authentically, unapologetically. They tried to erase me. Instead, they set me free. And freedom at 71 is sweeter than anything I've ever known. It's June 2025 now. 8 months since Harold and Susan put me in Heritage Gardens. 7 months since I filed for divorce. 4 months since the judge set me free. I'm 71 years old, and I'm living the life I was meant to live all along. The divorce was finalized in April. I got half the marital assets, $1.5 million, plus my separate account, $847,000, total, $2.3 million. Harold kept the Laurelhurst house. He had to buy out my half. It hurt him financially. I bought a beautiful condo in Capitol Hill. 2 bedrooms, view of the Space Needle. Modern, bright, mine. All mine. No memories of being invisible. No ghosts of Dr. Dorothy Chen forgotten in storage boxes. Betty lives 3 blocks away. We have coffee every morning. Walk around Volunteer Park. Go to museum exhibits, live the life of 2 women who chose freedom over obligation. Jennifer visits twice a week. We've rebuilt our relationship. She apologized for not fighting harder at that family meeting. I told her she was young, outnumbered, outmaneuvered by her father and sister. Mark visits when he's in Seattle. We're slowly reconnecting. He's ashamed he didn't defend me. I've forgiven him. Forgiveness doesn't mean forgetting, but it means moving forward. Susan and I haven't spoken since the hearing. She sent 1 email, cold, brief. I hope you're happy with your choice. I am happy, happier than I've been in 46 years. Harold calls occasionally, wanting to talk, wanting reconciliation, wanting me to understand he was just trying to help. I don't answer. There's nothing left to say to a man who spent 46 years making me invisible. Something else happened in April. Something unexpected, something wonderful. I met George Harrison at a lecture at the University of Washington Renaissance Art Symposium. I was attending as an audience member, hadn't been to one in 40 years. George was the keynote speaker, professor of art history, 74 years old, silver hair, kind eyes, brilliant mind. He mentioned my first book in his lecture, Medici Patronage and the Renaissance Masters by Dr. Dorothy Chen remains one of the most insightful analyses of patronage systems in Renaissance Florence. After the lecture, I introduced myself. I'm Dorothy Chen. His face lit up. Dr. Chen, your work influenced my entire career. I assign your books to my graduate students. Where have you been? Why haven't you published more? I got married, gave it up, became invisible for 46 years. What a loss to the field, and what a waste of a brilliant mind. We had coffee, then dinner, then more dinners. George treats me like I'm valuable, important, brilliant. He asks my opinions, listens when I talk, sees Dr. Dorothy Chen, not just Harold's discarded wife. We're not married. I'm not rushing into anything, but we're together. Happy, building something based on mutual respect instead of erasure. I'm writing again, a new book, Reclaiming the Renaissance, Women Artists and Forgotten Voices, about the women who were erased from art history, the brilliant minds dismissed, because they didn't fit the narrative. It's personal, cathartic, necessary. The University of Washington asked me to guest lecture this fall. 47 years after I left academia, Dr. Dorothy Chen is coming home. I'm 71 years old. I have a PhD, $2.3 million, a beautiful condo, a wonderful man who values me, and a book contract. 8 months ago, I was in Heritage Gardens, invisible, dismissed, put away like furniture nobody wanted anymore. Today, I'm Dr. Dorothy Chen, author, scholar, survivor, free. If you're listening to this and you're 60, 70, 80, and you think it's too late to reclaim your life, hear this. It's never too late. Never too late to remember who you were. Never too late to become who you're meant to be. Never too late to stop being invisible and start taking up space. My husband and daughter put me in a nursing home because they decided I didn't matter anymore, because being just a housewife meant being nothing. But I was never just anything. I was Dr. Dorothy Chen, published scholar, brilliant mind, woman who survived 46 years of erasure and came out stronger. They thought putting me away would solve their problem, make me disappear quietly, make their lives easier. Instead, it woke me up, reminded me who I was, gave me back the life I'd given up. At my hearing, the judge asked Susan, "Was this your mother's life, or the life she was expected to live?" For 46 years, I lived the life I was expected to live, the good wife, the devoted mother, the invisible woman who existed to serve. Now I'm living my life, the one I choose, the one I deserve. And it's never been better. Subscribe for more stories about women who refused to disappear, who chose themselves, who proved that age is just a number and power comes from knowing your worth. My name is Dr. Dorothy Chen. I'm 71 years old, and I'm living proof that the best revenge isn't revenge at all. It's living well, authentically, unapologetically. They tried to erase me. Instead, they set me free. And freedom, at 71, is sweeter than anything I've ever known.